Well, hey there, church family. I hope that you are doing well, and I am coming at you or to you this morning for our um, Monday morning devotional thought, trying to get our minds and our hearts pointed towards the Lord and on spiritual things. And I really do hope that that these Monday morning devotions that Pastor Cody and I send out do just that. That as you watch them, and maybe you don't watch them till Tuesday or Wednesday, that whenever you watch them, they help you get your mind on things of the Lord. Now today, I'm going to read a verse, and the verse I'm going to read is very fitting to what we're going through right now, because in a sense, we're all up against the same challenge right now. Because as we live through this time of coronavirus, we're all facing a certain amount of stress. We're all facing some nerves. We're facing some uncertainties. There's fears and anxieties. All of these things are probably by all of us being experienced at some level. Now they may come from different reasons why, but we're all feeling them. It's also true that the verse I'm going to read would be very applicable to our lives, even if we weren't in the midst of this time of corporate challenge, even if we weren't as a country and as a church kind of held together in a sense, or all have in common this challenge that the coronavirus has brought to us, with the social distancing and things being closed and the economy being impacted so heavily. This verse would be true if none of that was going on, because we had all at some point or another going to face something real hard. That our lives on earth are going to be filled with challenges. Now, not every day is a challenge. Some days, we're just living on cloud nine, rolling right along. But man, when those challenges come, they're really hard. They're really, really hard. And church, we're all aware that we faced some loss in the past week or two, and that's hard. We're all aware of other situations in our lives and in the lives of people that we love deeply, and it's impacting them, and that's really hard, and that's really real. And so, church, I read this verse, and it's true of this time of the coronavirus, but it's going to be true down the road when in my life or your life you just face something very, very difficult. The verse we read today comes out of John chapter 16, verse 33. It says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Isn't it great that God is a source of peace in our lives? That in a world of chaos, in a world of challenge, in a world that seems to be overrun with our enemy, that God says, you can have peace in me. Now, I don't know that we can obtain peace on our own. I don't know that any of us are just laid back or just chilled out or just relaxed enough on our own to be at peace. But in God, we have a source of peace. In God, no matter what's going on around us, while we may still be hurt, while the future may be very uncertain, we can be at peace because God puts our heart at peace. It says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. You will have suffering in this world. Be courageous. I have overcome the world, or I have conquered the world. Man, what a loaded couple sentences. What a potent verse. We could go on for hours and hours compared to 10 minutes about all the truths we learn in this verse. First thing we learn is that we are guaranteed challenges in life. Now, that's not a very encouraging way to start your week. We're going to get better from here, but let's start with the reality that there's going to be challenges in life. There'll be job loss. There'll be financial strain. There'll be health issues. There will be death. There will be all sorts of other things that bring our hearts down, that weigh our hearts down. There will be things that shake our faith to the core. There will be things that have us asking questions like, God, where were you? God, are you really in charge? God, how on earth do I move on from this? Man, those things are going to happen. Now, a couple years ago in January, we spent a couple weeks talking about suffering, right? And when I talk about suffering, when I use that word, I'm not talking about the you know flat tire. No, that's not suffering. That's really inconvenient. We're not talking about the restaurant messed up our order. No, that's frustrating, but we move on. Church, we're going to have life altering moments that shake us to the core, that cause us to go back to our faith and reaffirm it. Jesus says, in this world, you will have suffering. You will have horrible days, months. You're going to have them. And I'm sorry. I'm going to have them, and I'm sorry that I'm going to have them. My children are going to have them, and I'm not going to be able to protect them from having them. Jesus said, you're going to have trouble in this life, in this world. But he tells us that because he wants us to be at peace. He wants us to be at peace in the midst of our challenge or in the midst of our suffering. He says, be courageous. Don't be alarmed. Don't be caught off guard. Don't hunker down. Don't be scared. Don't be shaken. He says, be courageous. Courageous is a strong word. It's one of those words that gets me fired up. Be courageous. Be courageous. Be brave. Be bold. Be strong. He says, be courageous. Not because of our own grit, not because we can put our head down and drive right through it, not because we're tough, or we're stubborn, or we're strong. None of that. Because none of those characteristics alone are going to get us through our hardest days. None of those characteristics alone are a source of peace. All of those things are things God may use or traits God may use, but those traits alone, they don't get us through our hardest days. That's only by the goodness of God that we make it through our hardest days. But Jesus said, you're going to have trouble, but be strong, be brave, because God has conquered the world, because Jesus has overcome the world, because there's a battle between good and our enemy, and Jesus wins that battle. Because there's nothing that happens that he's not in complete control of. That there's nothing that comes into my life that God won't work through. And that he won't bring out a positive or a good result for. Yes, it may be a season of pain and of hurt, but on the other side, there's something good for me. Right? We need to be courageous in the midst of our challenges, in the midst of our hurts. Not as a naive pie in the sky thing, but as in a concrete reality that God's in complete control of that situation and he's working it for our good, and it's not going to last forever. And when we get to the other side, there's going to be a good plan from a good God that has taken care of everything on our behalf. That's why we can be at peace in the midst of chaos. That's why we can be brave in the midst of hardship. Not because we're going to get us through, but because God's already said he's bigger than that hardship. God already said he is in complete control of that suffering. God has said that he has overcome and has conquered and is in charge of every second and every detail of our lives. So we can, with all courage, walk in and through that challenge, because we know we are being walked through that challenge by a good God that loves us and is working a plan. Church, whether it's the coronavirus for you right now, whether it's a challenge from another aspect of your life, whether it's the challenge that's just around the bend, please know, yes, we're going to face challenges. But God is saying, be at peace and be courageous, because God is bigger, God is in control, and God is bringing good out of that challenge. Hey, thanks so much for taking time to watch this. I hope your week's off to a great start. I hope this genuinely helps you point your thoughts towards the Lord, and I can't wait to see y'all real soon. Take care. Have a great week.